Get your popcorn ready for the College Baseball Insider Show with Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills, giving you all the insights and analysis you need for the weekend slate that college baseball has to offer.
Oh no! Battles deep into the night has left the stadium entirely.
Now, here are your hosts, ready to dive into the top matchups.
What is up, college baseball fans? This is your host, Matt Grissom, joined by the other host of the show, Quentin Mills. What's up, Q? A little bounce back day for you today, but I hear you still got some beef.
I guess going from 2-4 to 1-1 is progress. It's not at the pace I'd like, but Florida Gulf Coast, just give me a shout out, please. You owe me some money. I'm going to hit you up via Venmo. To walk 2 in the 11th to lose the game on 2 bases loaded walks is just killer. Good teams don't lose midweeks. That's a brutal loss. I mean, I should be 2-0. It is what it is. This college baseball this weekend owes me a win after that one.
Well, you learn the hard way. I always tell people when they want to bet midweeks, it's usually just carnage for whatever reason. And it all depends on the weekend series they're coming off of, the weekend series that they're planning for ahead. And, man, sometimes you just get teams that lay an absolute egg like Vanderbilt yesterday. I think there were another few upsets. LSU lost yesterday in a midweek, right?
Stanford, LSU, Vandy, Tennessee lost. Now, I mean, Tennessee I wouldn't say is an elite team anymore as of now, but they were still heavily favored. I think minus 600 against Tennessee Tech, and they at home and they lose that. So,
yeah, what did Bradley Porras say? Value's value. I don't think there's any value on Tennessee anymore, man.
No, I don't think so. I couldn't tell if he was clowning me or not when he said he had him at like minus 1 million, and then I'm sitting there thinking like, all right, is this a jab or something? Because I called him out on one thing of the College World Series, and here he comes, and then they lose the game, and I'm like, this is bad. It's a bad look.
I mean, maybe if Chase Dolander was starting and then Burns and Beam were going to come in as relievers, I don't know. But, yeah, Tennessee is in the doghouse. But on a positive note for you, let's pull up last weekend's series predictions. I think you beat me once again. We were both on the wrong side with Miami, North Carolina. Obviously, LSU took that series. But even the Wildcats we'll get into later, but the Wildcats really impressed me. But even more impressive, I think Wake Forest owning that series against Louisville. Yeah, they dropped the last game, but they had the bats going. Carson Liggett, we've bet on him before, and that was a pretty good game. Chanticleer's got it done. Old Dominion just didn't show up there in the last 2 games. And then Vanderbilt, South Carolina, that was another one that just really kind of surprised me. I thought South Carolina would win that last game, just couldn't do it. Arkansas, that was an easy sweep. And then Oregon shutting the door on Stanford. Here we talked up Stanford on, that they were the elite Pac-12 team, if there is such a thing. But it may be Oregon State, the last one, who took the series over another suspiciously ranked top 25 Pac-12 team. Let's just put it that way. And it just keeps coming. There's several other Pac-12 teams that have snuck in the top 25 this week that I just think are undeserving.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kicking myself in the butt. I had Oregon initially, and then mid-show I switched to Stanford. I should have went 7-1, but
remember that. Yeah.
It's hey, you live and you move on. I'll take a 6-2. That's 5-2-1. Listen, if I could put money on these pick'ems, I'd be in great shape right now. I mean, to hell with midweek games. I just need to do pick'ems, and I'd be paying off mortgages.
There you go.
But no, I agree with you. Before we get into that, there's a couple teams like USC. I thought was kind of fraudulent. I think Arizona State's fraudulent as well. I think once you get outside of the top 20, between 20 and 30, like they're going to consistently flip flop between those 10 spots, and do they really have a chance at the College World Series? Typically, no. I mean, you do have your anomalies, but for the most part, I don't think really many teams in that 20 to 30 are overly deserving of their spot, unless maybe it's a team that battled some ruthless injuries and is kind of coming on late. The one team I think that is kind of that anomaly is Oregon State, as I've said the last show. The College World Series runs through Corvallis almost every year, it seems like. They had the back-to-back years, which was incredible for that place. They are a deserving team. I think they're finally getting stuff together. They had a huge class go last year, and they still have two solid pitchers. So I think they're real deal out of the Pac-12. I think we're seeing Stanford isn't as good as they are, and then I don't know, man. The jury's still out for me on Oregon. I don't know how far of a run they can make. They're going to stay in the top 25 because of the weak schedule, but I don't see them making it to College World Series territory personally.
Well, and shout out to us for, I think we had an awesome Saturday. We went 7-1 plus 6.28 units. So pat ourselves on the back for that one. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but I feel like we finished the weekend up units for sure. But I didn't know how the week broke down or the weekend broke down individually. But all in all, I mean, live and learn. I'm just thrilled that we're getting to bet these regular season games. Like we've stated in the past, I feel like books have always been hesitant to post consistently on college baseball lines. And here we are, halfway through the season, and we've had lines every week. Yeah, they've taken away run lines and totals, but we're still getting to learn these teams by betting on them. That the old adage of put your money where your heart is, or your heart goes where your money is. This is helping me prepare for Omaha and the regionals, super regionals, all of that, just by betting these teams now. And that's something, a few years ago that I wasn't able to do. You're basically just going into betting in the regionals, not really knowing how many, all the pitchers' names and the best hitters and everything like that. So continue to add value with that by, picking up a few units during the week and on the weekends, and more importantly, getting prepared for that postseason.
Yeah, I've always told my wife and people who ask me, what's kind of the draw to gambling. I mean, I do it responsibly. I joke. I always say I have a mortgage play. I'm not ever going to bet my mortgage. It's just, kind of a bit that I roll with on notebook wagering. But when it comes to this, I feel like when you put $1 or $10 or $100, whatever you're comfortable with, on a game, you instantly learn more about that team because you're focused on it, right? I think the attention span when you're not betting isn't necessarily there. You might graze over the score, but when you're actually putting money on something and we always like to text back, we're sweating it. You're invested. So I think it actually makes you more of an educated sports fan, if you want to call it, and as a gambler. So I think you're actually helping yourself by putting $1 even on the midweeks. It might, like you said, it's carnage, but I think it's getting us ready for regional supers and College World Series to really have an edge on the books. The only drawback is, and I'll call them out, like DraftKings and FanDuel and Barstool, I think every game that a top 25 team in should have a line. I think it's crap. Like last night, I didn't even have a line for the Arkansas game. Now, granted, it probably would have been high, but you try to figure out where these teams consistently are in the midweek on a handicap level and weekend and stuff. And when you don't have lines, it makes it a little difficult.
Yeah, Arkansas had a run line on Saracen. It was -4.5, and it was juiced -150. And they didn't cover if you watched it. UALR always plays Arkansas close, I feel like. So
yeah.
That was a stay away for me. But I'll give a shout out to myself. I'm 2-0 on midweek games this week.
Somebody's got to keep the show floating.
I mean, I'm here to pay the bills, okay? Let's dive in. Speaking of the Razorbacks, we've got 2 Thursday series beginning this week in the top 25. And lo and behold, it is Arkansas and Florida not playing each other, but Arkansas travels to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs, and the Florida Gators go to Columbia to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. So let's talk about those two first. we've got Arkansas ranked number 5, and I added a little bit to the series preview. I took away the XFIP because those that are into advanced analytics, Sierra is a little bit more accurate than XFIP. And then I've also added the RPI rankings for these teams. So do you like the Razorbacks to get the sweep? I think it's pretty obvious they're going to be a favorite. Saracen's already got a line out. Arkansas minus 165. I jumped all over it. I thought that was way too cheap. You're talking about Hunter Holland starting Thursday night. He's got, 6-1 record, 2.81 ERA. Dude's probably our best pitcher outside of Hagen Smith, but he's our best starter at this point with Hagen in the role that he's in. So going back to the sweep question, do you like the Razorbacks to get the sweep in Athens?
Man, I'll actually, because Florida just played Georgia, I'm going to say no. I think it's extremely hard to sweep. I think they're going to catch Thursday, maybe Friday. It's just Charlie Goldstein, what he did against Florida. I mean, he almost took them, to a no-hitter. It felt like they just couldn't really and Florida's got a potent offense just like Arkansas, and he really made those guys struggle. Now, Florida did torch Jaden Woods and Liam Sullivan, so I don't think there's going to be an issue there. But if Goldstein comes out like he did against Florida, I think it could be a little tough. I think Will McIntyre is a favorable matchup for Georgia in the sense of hitting. Am I surprised if they sweep? No. But if you had to put money on whether they sweep or they take it 2-1, I probably would lean 2-1. This Georgia team's a little scrappy, especially now you're going to catch them at home. They just came off of a bad series loss to Florida, 2-1. And then they did handle business against Clemson to kind of right the ship last night. Give me 2-1, but I do love it. I'm definitely jumping, and I may even lay into the 200 just kind of a bounce back get right bet for Arkansas. If you're moving the points there in the line from minus 165 up, I think I'm going to roll it with you.
Yeah, I mean, I made it a minus like 195, minus 200. I feel like it's a pretty good mismatch here. And, I'm really liking this whole Arkansas-Florida connection, and it's a good thing that we're not playing each other. But I feel like if Florida plays them, then Arkansas plays them right after. I mean, we've got like the exact same SEC schedule.
Yeah.
Alabama, Ole Miss, Auburn, Tennessee. Georgia. I mean, we're just back and forth on these teams. So I'm getting a good look at them by betting on the Gators. But yeah, I'm with you. I feel like Georgia probably gets one. They've seemed to consistently get at least one in the SEC, except for against Vanderbilt, obviously. But yeah, Georgia's tough. The whole SEC is tough. I mean, who are we kidding?
I don't think. It's hard to sweep in any conference, let alone SEC. Hey, don't. Yeah.
But then again, we just swept Tennessee, and I don't know how much merit you want to put into that. They did screw with their lineup, throwing Andrew Lindsey. But Arkansas was the better team every single inning.
Yeah. That
entire series. And I hadn't seen Arkansas play like that. And keep in mind, they did it without their best hitter, in my opinion, in Jared Wagner. I mean, dude's out now with a finger fracture. He had surgery on Monday. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So, we may get him back by the SEC tournament. Maybe not. But, still doing it. I mean, the Razorbacks just continuously find ways to get guys on base and get runs.
Yeah, I'm glad I put the future on them. They're an unhealthy team right now, and they're still 30-7, 11-4 in the SEC, number 5 RPI, number 5 in the country. I mean, to have those injuries and still do what they do, there's one word that speaks to Arkansas, and it's dangerous. And I think you have to until they lose a series. I think you have to roll with him, especially with Hunter Holland every game one until he loses. It's kind of the Paul Skeens bit. It'll help when Tiger comes back, because then you get Hagen Smith in the lineup. So that'll bump out McIntyre, Bybee, probably Bybee if I had to assume. I'm sure McIntyre would slide from game 2 to game 3, but they're, like I said, I mean, they didn't have Wagner. Like, you start getting guys like Brady Slavens, Peyton Stovall going, and then you have Kendall Diggs and Jossenberger and Brofin, and then you have Wagner. Hopefully he can kind of bounce back in time for a later postseason run. That's a dangerous recipe, and this might be Van Horn's year because outside of, we're starting to see LSU doesn't have anybody past a Friday. They're really struggling. You look at it's a weak Big 12. I don't see a run there. I don't see a Pac-12 run. So this is the year Arkansas probably has, in my opinion, the best chance to win a College World Series of the last 5 or 6 years.
And it gives me so much confidence hearing you say it instead of me. But from what I've seen, it's almost like Ole Miss last year where they just kept finding ways to win. And it was always, they had their consistency in the bullpen and with the bats, but I feel like every game somebody new stepped up and did something. And that's what I'm seeing in this Arkansas team. And we're not even fully healthy yet. We get Tiger back, we get Wagner back. That's going to improve us tremendously. And, we're already doing really well, but that's enough about my team. Let's talk about the Gators. I've got a fly buzzing around me trying to get airtime right now. So if you just see me start swatting, that's what that is. For those of you that only listen to it in podcast form, you are missing out on a show. Let me tell you.
That's a fly on the wall sent by either D1 Baseball or 11.7. They want to catch the latest and greatest news on the gambling side of things.
Well, I'll let you lead it off with the Gators. Tell me what you're thinking about the series.
This might be the series Florida loses. I think they're catching South Carolina at the wrong time. I think if they caught them a little earlier in the season, things would maybe play out different. It's really hard to say, Florida is going to lose a series, but I try to be the most objective fan, especially when money's involved. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida wins the series, but I wouldn't be surprised if they lose it. It's really a good matchup. I think Will Sanders and Brandon Sproat, to me, flip a coin and you pick either side, and I think it's a good bet, honestly. I would give Hurston Waldrop the edge on Jack Mahoney. Waldrop is on another level right now. His first couple starts were a little shaky, but he was able to get wins. And then his last 2 starts were absolutely phenomenal. I think he's in the groove. I told you Hurston Waldrop is made for big moments like this in the SEC, and he's proving me to be right once again. And I'll be honest. Now, granted, I know it's against Georgia, but Jack Caglione pitched really well, and that was one of my watch list things was, does Sully give him the opportunity to kind of right the ship before we get into some deep stuff with South Carolina and Vanderbilt? And he, for the most part, righted the ship. He looked very well. His control was a lot better. So even though he's going up against Eli Jones projected, I don't know, man. It could be a little tighter than I'm thinking. I'm never going to pick against my Gators, but I'll just say that I wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina wins the series 2-1 at home. That's just a hard place to play. It's going to be crowded. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's just part of playing in the SEC. You go on the road, expect it to be a sellout, and usually expect it to be a top 25 matchup. But South Carolina came off what I thought was one of their worst performances as far as series wide against Vanderbilt. And I don't know if they're kind of going to be hanging their heads a little bit with that, or if they're going to come out firing. The first game is probably just going to be a sit back and watch for me, unless I feel like there's a good advantage on one side. But I'm with you. I really think Hurston Waldrop could take game 2 for them. And then Saturday, when game 3 rolls around, it's just going to be a prediction on how the series, I feel like, unfolds. But I would set the over-under on Ethan Petrie and Jack Caglione home runs at like 3.5 for the series. I think it's going to be an awesome series. South Carolina is a great team, but Florida is dangerous too. So I'm really looking forward to this series. I feel like I always say it, week in and week out, there's always one, and it ends up either making me look like an idiot or, we nail it on the head. But I think this may be one of the best series we have of the SEC season.
Yeah, one thing I totally missed, and I don't know how because I was complaining about it, is Florida's missing their closer. He leads the SEC in saves with 7. Brandon Neely got tossed for looking at Georgia's benches on Sunday and saying, come on. The NCAA didn't allow an appeal, which is just bullshit. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's no other word to say to get the point across. The NCAA needs to fix that. It's egregious. It's uncalled for. It's unfair. I mean, you had, was it Jared Jones for LSU? I mean, he's screaming F you, pussy, F you. And all it is a warning. And then this guy says, come on, after making a huge out, and he gets tossed in a 4-game suspension. I mean, we've got to fix that. There's got to be a review process, and there's got to be a process to say, yes, this is warranted, or no, let's take a look at this. It was an error of judgment, and we're going to play on. That could mean the difference in this game. Like I said earlier, I mean, Florida's got a sophomore in Phillip Abner who's starting to pitch really well as of late, but you put a sophomore in a big series like that, I mean, he could live it up or he could fold. So to not have Brandon Neely is going to be a huge thing for Florida.
Oh, diving into the Friday slate, we're going to go chronologically from the top 25. The 6 o'clock Eastern slate starts with High Point and Campbell. I would assume Campbell is going to sweep High Point, considering they're like 13-24. Are we both in agreement there? Not much to cover.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say a sweep because they did lose 1 to Presbyterian. So, I mean,
Campbell can't afford to lose regular season conference games. I mean, they should be head and shoulders above the conference that they play in.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't lose.
I'll say this. I assume it's going to be a sweep, but I can't guarantee it because, again, they've lost to Presbyterian and Longwood in consecutive weeks, and they should have mopped the floor with them. No issues. So assumption of a sweep, yes. Guaranteed, no.
Well, another team that we will talk about that we're just kind of done with, Boston College is ranked number 20th. I'm not sure how, but they just got another midweek loss to UConn. They got blown out. I think it was like
15-1.
Line 12-1.
15-1, I think.
Well, once again, Boston College lets us down. Granted, they didn't win the series, but they won the Chris Flynn Day. I'm not sure how. It took a lot of prayer and cursing out their team by us sweating that out, but they come back and win. And that was one of those that we texted. And we were like, all right, don't say anything else. It's not over till it's over. But they go to Chapel Hill to take on number 18 North Carolina, who I feel like neither of these teams are really deserving of being in the top 25, but here we are. North Carolina coming off a series loss against Miami. They didn't look very impressive. The only win they got was 9-8, and that was the Connor Bovair. No, they switched it up, didn't they? Connor Bovair pitched a different day than the game 2.
Yeah, so Bovair pitched game 3.
So it's just kind of one of those things where everybody's screwing with lineups right now, trying to figure out which team is the hottest and which team is fading off. And I think it's safe to say that Boston College and North Carolina are both fading in the wrong direction right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is an ugly matchup. I actually do think there might be some value, as much as I bashed them last week against Miami because I thought Miami was on the ropes. In North Carolina, just they could have put their knockout punch and ended Miami for the season. If you were a Miami fan, I think that probably would have been the best move, and then hopefully get Gino DeMar out of there. But he lives another weekend. North Carolina, I think there's some value here because I just think Boston College is that overrated. I think UNC at home again is going to do well. At some point, he's got to do something. He's hitting hard line drives and Vance Honeycutt. He's got to break out of his his bad streak of hitting. The guy's just too talented of a player. Same with Matt Horvath. Both of them are really struggling. Osuna's really struggling. I think this is a good opportunity for them to kind of tee off on Boston College. I mean, I'm not overly impressed with Leak and West, and I don't even know if I'm going to do the Chris Flynn auto bet right now. He was giving up some hits. Now he was a victim of some costly errors by his defense in the behind him. That's not on him. I think this might be the time where Horvath, Honeycutt, and Osuna finally can break the streak at home and get those bats rolling. So they're actually, as much as I hate UNC betting wise, I think there might be some value on them.
Yeah, sticking in the ACC, there is another matchup with number 8 Virginia going to Notre Dame. I feel like Virginia is going to be a parlay play. Notre Dame's just not what they were last year with Link Jarrett. They're 20-15 on the year. Nothing really to write home about in this series, but being a Virginia boy, I'll let you talk about them if you want to. But if not, we can move on to Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
I think it's pretty easy. I think UVA is going to take the series. I think they were frustrated after what happened with Pitt. I joked on Notebook Wager, and Pitt's one of those teams that could beat the number 1 team in the country and then lose to a high school prep team in the next week. You just don't know what Pitt you're going to see. UVA saw the Pitt that could beat anybody in the country. They did end the series on a high note with that come from behind wins, and then they parlayed that into just an ass whipping of VCU. So, like you said, without Link Jarrett, Stifler, he doesn't have his guys in Notre Dame. It's his first year. They're not horrid, but they're not great either. I think UVA bounces back and gets a series win here.
All right, so moving back to the SEC, we've got number 4 Vanderbilt, like we stated earlier, coming off that big win against South Carolina. They go to take on their crosstown rival. Not really, Knoxville's not that close to Nashville, but they go to take on the lowly Tennessee Volunteers, who just can't seem – they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat right now. There were just so many errors. Tell me what's wrong with Tennessee. They're just broken.
I think they were too cocky last year. I think they're getting humbled this year. I think them messing with Johnny V and I kind of were discussing, Burns started last year, game 1 for most of the season. Dollander was game 2 and Beam was game 3 until, and I'm drawing a blank, until their star pitcher came back last year from injury. Help me out. What's his name?
I can't remember.
You know what I'm talking about. Anyways, their star pitcher came back, but to move Dollinger game 1 and Burns game 2, I think maybe it might have messed up the rotation. I think their bench isn't that great this year. They lost, Jordan Beck was a true leader for that team. He sparked them. He's not there this year. It hurts. I think Vitalo's realizing there's more to baseball than just trying to act cocky and have a good fan base and just try to recruit the best players. You actually have to coach them. You got that's great stud shortstop from Kansas, but he's really not producing. I don't think he's being coached. He's got the talent there. You're just not seeing it. On the other side, I do think Vandy gets the series win. They kind of got humbled against Indiana State, lost 10-2 midweek. You just can't lose those games. Now they have to make that up with an extra win, in my opinion, in the SEC to kind of wash out that ugly loss. The only thing that scares me with Vanderbilt is they're not the best hitting team. I mean, Bradfield Jr. is not a great hitter, incredible outfielder. Shrek is hit or miss. Maldonado's hit or miss. I'm drawing a blank. Parker Dolan's batting like 270. He's not doing well. So, I mean, if Tennessee can kind of right the ship, they have an opportunity. They have the athleticism. They have the talent. Vanderbilt's pitching, like Carter Holton should bounce back. He had a rough start. I think he went 2/3 of an inning in his start. So he should, that's probably some value there to look at, is catching him on a bounce back. We've catched that on Brandon Sproat and a couple others, Paul Skeens. So look for that bounce back. Futrell and Hunter Owen. Also, I don't think it's going to be a sweep because I think Tennessee is scrappy enough to just scrap out one win. But at least Friday is a Vanderbilt win, and then either Saturday or Sunday.
At least at home, you would think that. I mean, these are two teams that are on polar opposites. You've got one that's 2-7 in their last 9 SEC games, and the other one's 7-2.
This is Tennessee's season. This series right now is Tennessee's season. If they lose this series, they're done.
Yeah, they may already be done. I mean, they're on life support right now.
Oh, absolutely.
But they've also faced. I mean, look at that. At Arkansas, at LSU, and Florida. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
It's a gauntlet.
Now they're Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So you face the number 1, 5, 3, and 4 team. I mean, that's tough, but that's SEC baseball. That's why we love it. I don't know if you saw on the College Baseball Insiders Twitter, I kind of clowned you and Johnny for pronouncing it's Dolander.
I saw that.
Everybody wants to say Dollander, but it is Dolander. I confirm that.
I'm
Not
bad.
with his mom, but it is Dolander.
If that's the worst thing I've done in life, it's okay.
I mean, let that be the only mistake you make this week and hit a grand slam, okay?
Hey, don't take Vandy. That was my mistake this week.
So, number 2, Wake Forest, they play against Pittsburgh. I didn't even make the card for this one. I feel like Wake Forest should get the sweep. Rhett Lauder, Sean Sullivan, Josh Hartle. There's not a better pitching threesome, if we can say that word. There's not a better pitching threesome in the country. I mean, that is just – it's unbelievable, and they're so much fun to watch offensively now that they've gotten everybody back healthy. I've said it, and I'll say it again. If you can still get Wake Forest 10-1 to win it all, I feel like that is your best bet right now. They are the most complete team, and they prove week in and week out why they are going to be a team to contend for College World Series going down the stretch.
I would even take it as far as, and this is just mathematical, if you put $100 on it, if you catch them, I think they're 8-1 or 7.5-1.
So it dropped again.
I'll take a $750 payout for a team that probably should be a 350 or 4-1 in actuality. Like you said, there's no pitching threesome better right now. Last week I said that they're probably going to lose a series. And then when I looked at their schedule, I thought Louisville had the best chance. They dominated Louisville. I mean, I don't think they're going to lose a series now. I mean, to see what they did to Louisville, and they were down a couple hitters. Cecere was out and Kurtz. So that just tells me that even without their best hitters, like they can just go out and maul guys. I'm going to take Wake Forest. I was dumb for not even taking them game 1 last week. I'm taking them every game they play because I'm going to end up positive money.
Well, and if you see Wake Forest less than like 200 on that opening game,
you're stealing money.
Hammer it. Yeah. All right. So another team or another top 25 matchup. We've got the number 24 Southern Miss Golden Eagles at 22-13 taking on the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina, number 10. You like Coastal Carolina. I mean, this is a team that you've made money on. Southern Miss, we've always talked about Coastal Carolina's got the offense to hang with anybody. Southern Miss is, they used to be known for pitching. I'm not really sure outside of Tanner Hall what's happened this year, but who do you like in this? You stick with the hottest batting team?
I think you have to. They're at home. They won again tonight. I stayed off them because I thought Charleston may have been kind of a letdown spot, looking ahead to Southern Miss. But the last I saw, it was 10-4. They were just rolling. I mean, right now, is Coastal going to lose a game? Because I'll tell you, their Fridays, well, he bounces between game 1 and game 2. Morrison is looking kind of real deal. And then they have this guy named Horn out of the bullpen, Darren Horn, who is absolutely incredible. He's one of the better relievers, in my opinion, in college baseball. And then they have a great closer. I think his name's Carney. He throws electric stuff. He wins games when he comes in. And for a team that can't pitch, I mean, I'm starting to see some really good pitching outings from them. And then, like you said, they can outswing anybody. I mean, they need to hit a home run, they'll hit two of them. They need to hit two, they'll hit four. They just slug the ball. They don't worry about going down. They beat Wake Forest, at home. Why can't they beat Southern Miss? Like you said, outside of Tanner Hall, when Southern Miss lost Hurston Waldrop last year to the transfer portal, I think that really hurt them. Their offense isn't that great, in my opinion. If we do get in a situation where it's a pitching matchup, I can't say that Southern Miss really has the advantage right now, but I will say if it's an offensive matchup, Coastal Carolina is going to win all day long. And to get this series at home is monumental for Coastal. I'm actually in Myrtle Beach, so I'm actually going to try to convince the wife. I might take the kid for a couple hours, tell her to go hang out at the beach, do whatever, and get in her good graces so I can slide over to the Friday game. I think Aaron Fitt's going to be there, so maybe if I could run into him, we could talk some shop.
Yeah, you need to send her to get like a mani-pedi, and you take the kid. That's going to get you in good graces a lot sooner. All right, so I used Old Dominion last week as kind of a marker to handicap this one. Yes, Coastal Carolina won that series against Old Dominion against what I really thought would happen, but it was a good marker to see because Old Dominion just played Southern Miss. They took 1 out of 3, and I feel like it's so evenly matched. Southern Miss is going to get 1, and I feel like it's going to be Friday with Tanner Hall. So I really hope I can get a plus money price on Southern Miss, but if they lose that one, this is probably going to be a sweep for Coastal Carolina. So it all depends on the pitching matchup. I'm anxious to see that number though. But do you think Coastal Carolina sweeps them, or do you think they take 2 out of 3?
No, I think you're right. I think Tanner Hall can get the game 1 matchup. I think it really depends on when Morrison pitches. Like I said, he's pitched game 1s before, he's pitched game 2s. I think the strategy, if I'm Coastal, is you throw him game 2, you kind of write game 1 off, and if you get that, it's a steal, and then you go for the sweep. But I think you play smart. I think you go for the series win. I think you kind of let Tanner Hall do his thing on Friday, and you save your better pitcher for Saturday, and really try to steal Saturday, Sunday, and end the trip, the homestand, on a high. So I would be interested to, before I make a bet, see who Coastal's throwing Friday, but Tanner Hall is definitely who I'm eyeing Friday.
The next matchup, I didn't make a card for this one either, but I want to touch on it real quick because it's Duke and Louisville, and I really like Jonathan Santucci for Duke. I'm curious to see that number. Don't just go auto bet. I'm not telling you, I'm telling everybody else.
Yeah.
Don't go auto bet Louisville just because they've got that rank number by their name. Duke can hit the ball, and they've got some good pitching. And I want to say keep an eye out for that one and watch that number because Duke is playing at home. Louisville's coming off getting beat by Wake Forest. I feel like Duke has an opportunity to beat them in that series.
Yeah, I think the only guy that I have more confidence in Louisville is Carson Leggett. So, like you said, don't sleep on Duke. I mean, they just went on the road against, it was technically a top 15 win against an overrated BC team, but they went into BC and beat them. So that was big for them, and now they get to come home and have some momentum to potentially knock off, another top 10 team or top 15 team.
All right, so next up, going back to the SEC, we've got Texas A&M taking on number 13 Kentucky. I put out a poll that if LSU were to lose that game 3 to Kentucky, should we take them more seriously, basically? And although they didn't win, I was very impressed with the Wildcats, not just a basketball school, okay? They're the RPI number 1 team. 29-7 on the year, which I'm pretty sure is LSU's record right now. I mean, let's talk about the Cats. Are we not putting enough confidence in this team as being legitimate, or are they just skating by and they've yet to be tested?
I think they've been tested. I think they've proven that they're up to the test. I don't see how you can't roll Kentucky here at home. when I look at A&M, I think A&M's on the rise. I think they were too highly ranked at the beginning of the season, hindsight being 2020. They did have some injuries, but now they're starting to slowly come back offensively. Now, pitching-wise, outside of Nate Detmer, they don't have anybody. And that's concerning because Kentucky threw what I thought was a pretty solid game, all three games. Well, with the exception of game one to LSU. I mean, they lost 16-6, but that was just a frustration. So throw that out. I thought game 2 and 3 were actually very well done by Kentucky. I thought both games could have went Kentucky's way at any point. I think they're real deal. Do I think that they're national titles contenders? No, I think that's probably another year or two down the road, but they're surely on the right track. And I have a lot of respect for Kentucky to be 10-5 in the SEC, 29-7 at this point. Kudos to them. And I think they get the series win here.
Yeah, these two teams are probably the most difficult time I had trying to figure out what their projected starters are going to be. They have switched it up so much. Texas A&M, outside of Nate Detmer, they don't start anybody the same, I feel like, in the last few weeks. And then Kentucky, they threw Zach Lee the other night out of the bullpen, and he's their typical Sunday starter. So the projected starters may not be accurate, but just watch those pitching matchups. We're going to try to post all of our plays once we know those, but it's so damn difficult when these teams don't post any information. So we're just going off the information at hand and try to make the best decision as possible. Let's talk about the LSU Tigers. Speaking of, coming off a series win against Kentucky, where they kind of showed me that they've got some holes, and I could punch holes in them some more in why they're not going to win it all. Outside of Paul Skeens, I don't think there's one guy in that rotation that you can hand the ball to and say, all right, we have to win or we go home. Go win. I mean, I've seen Thatcher Hurd get shelled. I've seen Ty Floyd get shelled. I've seen Christian Little get shelled. I mean, like I said early on, you need 2.5 guys. And they have one. I may say 1.5 because Paul Skeens is that good. But at the end of the day, he's only getting you one win.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the last couple series, and they were struggling outside of game ones. And then when they lost, Skeens in game 2, you could tell they were worried. Ty Floyd, Christian Little, Thatcher Hurd, when they get hit early, you can tell they get rocked. And they don't bounce back. They're not a Hunter Holland or a Brandon Sproat that can shake it off, after giving 3 earned runs in one inning and then go out and kind of shut it down. They continue to give up more runs and they get in their head. And like you said, they don't have anybody, even in the bullpen. Their bullpen got rocked by Kentucky. And you could tell they were visibly shaken up. And I don't know if confused was the word. I mean, they were definitely rattled. Offense can only take you so far, especially in the game of baseball. I mean, pitching wins championships. If you don't have, two, possibly 3 elite starters and then a couple guys out of the bullpen and then like a shutdown closer, you're not going to win many College World Series, if any. And right now, I think, like you said, outside of Paul Skeens, they don't have those. So that leads me to believe, if you have an LSU futures ticket, I'm going to say this, thanks for your donation to the Vegas sports books, because right now I just don't see how it's cashing. I mean, when you go to Omaha, those 16-6 games, they don't happen out there like that. That's just not the kind of game that's played out there. And if you don't have the pitching to win a tight 4-2 or 3-2 game out there, you're not going to go far, and you might not even make it to that point. So I don't see LSU making it to the College World Series and winning it by any means.
Well, and
they might make it, but
yeah, I feel like they're either going to get beat in the Super Regional or they're going to make it to the national championship game. I feel like it's one or the other. The teams that are typically the favorite or the shortest shot at the beginning of the season, Arkansas, Tennessee, you've seen it in the last few years, they get beat in the Super Regional. So we'll see. It's all going to depend on how it lines up. But you made a good point in how, and I'm going to talk about the Razorbacks again. Dave Van Horn made it a point against UALR. He said that he wanted us to hit where they are not. And it was only directional hitting on the ground. We're trying to shoot the gaps. I feel like he is trying to prepare this team for what it's going to be like to play in Hoover and to play at TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab, whatever it is now. Because the teams like LSU and, granted, South Carolina, the big home run teams that are dependent on that, they change the venue, and all of a sudden they can't do that. And so it's very important to be able to hit oppo and to hit gaps. And I feel like LSU, they're too expensive of a price to pay, and they were at the beginning of the season. They still are, for a team that just has so many question marks surrounding them. Now, that being said, they're probably going to sweep Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not good. They played for probably what was the bottom of the SEC West against Mississippi State last weekend, and they lost. I'm not buying Ole Miss to win one game. Are you?
No, I think they get past this, but I don't think this is a test for them. This really means nothing to LSU, in my opinion, at least sweeping. It hurts if you lose the series more than it does winning the series. Just one fact, the number one overall team hasn't won a national title since 1999. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at futures for LSU. But I fully project a sweep here.
And last but not least, as far as the series preview cards go, I did this and immediately hated myself because I hate the Pac-12, and you've got number 21 Oregon State, who finally cracked the top 25 against number 19 Arizona State. Honestly, outside of the Grand Canyon Arizona State game that I was going to go to until it got rained out in Scottsdale, I haven't paid attention to Arizona State at all. I don't feel confident that they can win even at home. I feel like Oregon State's playing pretty good baseball right now, and I would have to lean Oregon State to win this. But I think in the pick'em, I did pick Arizona State and immediately regretted it as I saw that they were playing tonight and were losing. They were getting beat against Arizona, which I thought was also odd that in the midweek you've got one random Pac-12 team or Pac-12 game. Yeah, Arizona is beating Arizona State 18-0.
Oh,
in the sixth inning. Yeah,
oh man!
I'm gonna change. I'm changing to Oregon State. Arizona State is not a good team.
All right, so I'm going to change Arizona. I'm kidding. I'm not changing, but I made a switch last week, and it cost me. So I think you're making the right change here. I think Oregon State is just too good. I look at Jacob Kmat's record, the 2-4. I don't think that tells how good of a pitcher he is, to be honest. I think he's a lot better than his record shows, and I think he had some losses early on that really didn't affect him. I'm taking him and Sellers and Lattery all day long over Arizona State. I don't know much about Arizona State. That's probably because they're not high flying. They're not elite. And even though it's a West Coast team, like I know Oregon State, I know UCLA, I know these schools, right? Arizona State's not popping up on my feed. They're not in D1 baseball. They're not on Twitter. They're just average, right? And they're right there. I mean, yeah, they're 25-10. They played a weak Pac-12 schedule. Oregon State is playing some of the best ball right now of anybody in the country. So I'm going to roll them at least Friday and probably Saturday as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, honestly, with that. But maybe because I was in Arizona, I just felt like, all right, sure, the Pac-12 is a crapshoot. Let's go ahead and pick on this team. But yeah, immediate regret. So I'm updating that now so I can post an accurate series prediction. All right. So once I get
Matt, you can't. If I sweep you in these pick'ems, like there's got to be some prize at the end of this. You got to make it a little competitive.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you name it. What do you want? Do you want like a steak dinner? Do you want a ticket to the World Series? What is it going to cost you?
We'll have to figure it out. I mean, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully it's no walk in the park. I like a little competition, but I need you to step your game up this week.
Well, if we keep picking on the same side, I'm not going to have an opportunity to.
That's true.
Is there anything else on the board that has caught your eye that you want to touch on? Anything you like, don't like, gripes about a team?
No, I think I've gotten my gripes out on Twitter last weekend. Listen, I mean, we're putting 57, 59%. We're not going to win all the games. Sometimes I do the reverse jinx. You know, baseball's hard. I mean, nobody saw the Big 12 sucking so bad this year. They're typically powerhouses. So, you know, you're doing a little better right now than I am. I had, the first weekend I did a lot better than you. Like, we're going to have our ebbs and flows and just kind of ride with us. I mean, we're both up units. I think you're up 11 now, and I'm, up 11. So I take that any day. Roll with us. We're going to have a good showing. I mean, we're, like you said earlier in the show, we're prepping for when it really counts, and that's regionals, super regionals in Omaha. So just bear with us. It's tough when you don't have the pitching matchups up until 10 minutes before game time. It's tough capping 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and especially midweek. So just bear with us, but we're going to stay positive in the units and win people money.
Absolutely. And I did post a series predictions. If you're looking at it, we're only opposite on one. So there's my opportunity to gain some ground on you. But also something I'm pretty proud of, thanks to Q's buddy helping us with this. We've got our bet tracker up and going. Q's got some work to do as far as backlogging all of his picks, just so they're all recorded. But similar to what I was doing on mattgrissom.com, logging all of my picks, we've got a nice little spreadsheet too that we'll post out, and you can follow all of our picks there, as well as keep in touch with us on collegebaseballinsiders.com or following us at CBSB Insiders on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, pretty much anything and everything that that you can find us on, we're on. But with that being said, Q, let them know where they can find you.
You find me at QMilly, that is with 3 L's and 2 Y's, and then at CBSB Insiders. So I'm always tweeting from something. Follow my guy Smitty at Notebook Wager, and he also does college baseball. We'll have to bring him on for an episode. He's a good dude, funny to talk with. But between us and him, we're throwing some good baseball out. So you can find us there, and then obviously you at Grissom Tweets.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, that concludes episode 5 of week 10. I'm going to go kill this fly. Y'all cash some tickets this weekend. Stay tuned. Q is a lot better than me about posting out plays immediately. I try to wait and wait till the last minute to get the pitching rotations, but man, he just fires away. So make sure you are following him as well as the show, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.